Hey folks, Kilt-Man here. Kilt-Man at your services. How are you all? I hope you're all doing very, very well. Now we've got some more sad news. Another cult genre icon has passed away. If you know and love your John Carpenter movies, which I know you do because you wouldn't be here otherwise, one of Carpenter's early stalwart family supporting character actors, Charles Cyphers, in so many of his earlier films, has sadly passed away at the age of 85 in Tucson, Arizona. He was born 1939 at Niagara Falls, and the news broke. His agent broke the news, I think yesterday. We're now on the Wednesday, but he died on the Sunday. Now I've seen conflicting dates for this. That he died on the 5th of August 2024 and the 4th of August 2024. But I'll go with what his agent said. He died on the Sunday, which was the 4th of August 2024, aged 85. I don't know if the guy was married. I've looked into this and I can't see any information about it. But anyway, Charles Cyphers is the face of Haddonfield. Yes, we all think it's Michael Myers, The Shape, or Dr. Sam Loomis, or Laurie Strode. But no, the face of Haddonfield, Haddonfield's police department. He is Sheriff Leigh Brackett, and he goes through hell. He loses his daughter. The events of Halloween, the original Halloween, then Halloween 2, yes, we all know John Carpenter did not direct Halloween 2. He didn't even want to have anything to do with the sequel to Halloween, and we understand why. It's an open and shut case, and the ambiguous ending, which he loved, the evil goes on. But no, Hollywood being what Hollywood is, even with independent movies, this made money. So studios and producers want more. Give me more of that. So he had to do a sequel, which we all know he didn't like. And he made Laurie and Michael brother and sister, and oh dear God, yeah. But I love Halloween 2, directed by Rick Rosenthal. Now, Charles Cyphers had already been in a couple of John Carpenter movies beforehand. He was Special Officer Starker in Assault on Precinct 13, which inarguably is the film that put John Carpenter's name on the celluloid map, because it may not have done so well in America at the time of its first release, but it did bloody well in Europe and especially in Britain. And his name became, wow, this guy, he's got something, John Carpenter. And as a Special Officer Starker, he does get wasted, but he has some great lines in it and a great sense of attitude, does Charles Cyphers. Known as Chuck to the people who he worked alongside, who regarded him as a very sensitive and loving and compassionate guy. He played very sort of acerbic, cynical, authoritarian swine in some movies. Certainly with Assault on Precinct 13, although he's a lot nicer than the warden who knocks Darwin Joston, of course, as Napoleon Wilson, knocks him out the chair. I don't sit in chairs as good as I used to, you know. And then he whips the chains around the warden's legs and sweeps him under. And then all the shotguns go to his face. He don't stand up as good as he used to. It's genius. But Charles Cyphers plays the guy who's ferrying these felons to death row from one prison to another. It's funny how it's kind of mimicked in Halloween, of course, where Michael Myers is going to be trafficked. He's going to be released to a lesser security psychiatric hospital, asylum, from Smith's Grove, which he escapes from anyway. So, but death has come to your little town, Sheriff. And but he's brilliant. His bristling animosity and grudging sort of, I kind of believe you, but you let him go. Damn you, let him go. Relationship with Donald Pleasance's Dr. Sam Loomis is great in the first movie, and it reaches a zeitgeist, of course, in Halloween 2. Halloween 2, directed by Rick Rosenthal, but John Carpenter wrote it, and John Carpenter then realised this film ain't working. we're going to have to go in and do some super shock scenes. So a lot more explicit graphic murders take place, which John Carpenter filmed. And I love Halloween 2. I think it's great. The two films do work for me, because I grew up with them at the time when they came out and saw them when they came out, and I've lived with them forevermore. And I don't like the whole Empire Strikes Back familial sort of aspect, but in the grand scheme of things, I think it still works. Halloween 2, then it ends. But I do love Michael Myers carrying on, except in the hands of David Gordon Green and Blumhouse, who stupidly and horribly, but obviously brought back in a lot of original cast members. Yeah, for just walk-on cameos. And it was a disgrace. And sadly, Charles Cyphers, Chuck, did reappear in Halloween Kills and got his throat slit. I like in Halloween 4, Return of Michael Myers, he gets name dropped. And like, Sheriff Leigh Brackett, he's retired. He's gone out to live in, oh God, I can't remember now, is it Montana or somewhere? He's gone way distant to avoid the hellish nightmare memories of Haddonfield because he loses his daughter. In Halloween 2, there is a grueling sequence where his deputy, whose name is Gary Hunt, and we'll talk about this, John Carpenter using names, the very name of Leigh Brackett. Leigh Brackett is a celebrated American authoress of sci-fi, noir, and I think a few westerns as well. But mainly, she was the queen of space. She was like the Edgar Rice Burroughs, the L. Ron Hubbard of her day. She created iconic book franchises with ongoing characters, and she was brilliant. But she worked a lot in westerns and film noir, and worked with John Carpenter's favourite director, Howard Hawks, on many movies. So in honour of Leigh Brackett, he calls his Sheriff of Haddonfield Leigh Brackett. Carpenter does this all the time with names. They're always people that he knows or reveres, as we'll see when we talk about some other roles that Charles Cyphers played. Now, before we go any further, I should just say that ordinarily when I do these tributes or obituaries, I have a playlist of all the music of the films that certain person was in. And it would have been great to have a playlist for Charles Cyphers, having been in so many of my favourite bloody movies. But as some of you know, yes, the prehistoric PC that I've been operating, trying to cajole into life with lightning bolts and cattle prods and all sorts of like shock treatment, has died. And although I said a few videos ago, oh, we're going to get that sorted in a week's time, well, other stuff took place and we weren't able to do so. We are again hoping to do so tomorrow. Right, well, wish me luck with that one. But I would have a playlist of all this different stuff. But now I can't do that. I'm restricted to just playing CDs, old-fashioned style CDs. So we have, obviously, Halloween and Sheriff Leigh Brackett. Now in Halloween 2, there is a scene which, when I was a kid and watched it way back in 1981, because I was going to cinema free of charge and seeing films which I should not have been seeing, officially, legally, but hey ho, it didn't affect me none. And when Gary Hunt, who is the deputy, says to him, like, they found 3 more bodies. Leigh, they found 3 more bodies in the house opposite. Leigh, one of them was Annie's. Annie is his daughter. And they grip each other and like, oh, what? Get me out there. Because Halloween night, Halloween 2 is just a continuation of Halloween 1. The same night, just more killings. And a different location being Haddonfield Memorial Hospital. But they arrive at the scene and Annie's body's brought out, and he pulls the sheet back and there she's got a slit throat. And he just says, like, I have to go and tell my wife before somebody else does. Now that sounds like just a nothing. It's almost like you've been sussed having an affair I must go and tell my wife before someone else does. But as a kid, that had a hugely profound effect on me, because I saw suddenly, well, there's a parent and seeing his daughter, slaughtered, and it's done in such a subtle way. It was really genius. You'd seen him as the gruff sheriff who kind of doesn't believe what Sam Loomis is telling him. You're telling me all these houses are lined up for a slaughter, and well, they could be, The power of John Carpenter's main theme. Just glorious, isn't it? And his continued sort of exacerbation with Sam Loomis. He even says in Halloween 2, I'm almost there. What? At the point where I stop taking orders from you. Because he's the law in town, and he hadn't seen anything at that stage apart from a dead dog. He came home and got hungry. But his delivery of I have to go and tell my wife before someone else does. And the shell-shocked reverie that he's in, it really affected me. And I thought, even as a kid, I thought, I liked him in the first movie, but oh God, now I really feel for him. Sadly, he will depart the movie at that stage, and the deputy Gary Hunt will take over. Now, Gary Hunt, before I forget about it, is a name used in a TV movie that John Carpenter made called Someone's Watching Me, and with Lauren Hutton and Adrienne Barbeau and Charles Cyphers. We'll talk about that more in a minute. But I love the way that he brings these names into it and populates his cast and characters with these names. He's watched the movie. I like that character. I like this. I like that. And just maintain a sort of almost an umbilical cord running throughout all of his movies. I like that. A lot of film auteurs will do that sort of thing. And it's their own little connective joke. It makes them familiar with the work, and it links everything they've done. And those eagle-eyed or eagle-eared viewers or listeners will realise and pick up on it. And I love that sort of thing. But he will disappear from the film at that stage, and sadly, but tragically as well. And that scene is so telling that when Rob Zombie made Halloween, and then his Halloween 2, of course, and I do like those versions because they're radically different enough. But when Brad Dourif, who plays Sheriff Leigh Brackett in Rob Zombie's retake on it, Michael, I had to interrupt with those stabbings. So, Brad Dourif in Halloween 2, when Annie is discovered at his daughter's body, he knew that the effect that Charles Cyphers had in his sort of low-key, subtle approach. He went, but that was devastating. I've got to top that now, somehow. In his quietly understated way, I've now got to go the other way. And of course, he does become a howling, aggrieved, anguished parent at the slaughter and eviscerated body of his daughter. It's so much more explicit and graphic and harrowing than Halloween 2, the original Halloween 2. But man, they took it from Charles Cyphers. They took it from Chuck's portrayal of Sheriff Leigh Brackett. Everyone's entitled to one good scare, and he's brilliant. Of course, we've mentioned Assault on Precinct 13, and he's great in that, albeit a very small sort of role. Then obviously Halloween and Halloween 2, but he was in 2 TV movies for John Carpenter. Elvis the Movie, starring Kurt Russell, the first time that John Carpenter and Kurt Russell would work together, first of obviously many, and John Carpenter played Elvis. Imagine that, chain smoking, you could ash all over his blue suede shoes, but Kurt Russell plays Elvis superbly. It's a longer film. I think you can get the full version now, and you should watch it. A lot of John Carpenter fans just don't bother with the TV movies, but they're actually really, really good. And you can see how Carpenter didn't have a great time making Elvis the movie. I think it was shot in like something like 30, maybe 35 days, and I put a lot of locations. And Kurt Russell won awards for his portrayal as Elvis. And he's brilliant. But Charles Cyphers is in there as one of the King's early managers, and he's in it. Not a great deal, but he's in it enough to again make his mark on the movie, and you do remember him. Then John Carpenter does the TV movie Someone's Watching Me, and Lauren Hutton is being beset by a stalker. Not a stalker, that's the special officer in Sutton Precinct 13 that Charles Cyphers plays, but a stalker who gets into an apartment, plants all listening devices, and is obviously watching from an apartment over the way. But you have loads of red herrings as to who it might be. And Adrienne Barbeau's in it, and she's a lesbian in it. I just thought I'd throw that bit in there, because I know that's going to please a lot of people who suddenly now want to watch this movie. And she's great in it as well. But it's Lauren Hutton's movie. But Charles Cyphers plays the police detective who she brings in, gets involved, but he arrests the wrong person, and it's all red herrings. And he's in it a little bit, but again, he shines. He has got an attitude, a recognisable voice, a recognisable personality. You know, part of me kind of thinks of him as the Brian Dennehy of obviously First Blood and Cocoon, but he has that kind of face, that kind of, you know, maybe you could see as being a bit of a jerk-off authoritarian, but he plays it really well. The next thing for Carpenter would be The Fog. Again, Adrienne Barbeau. And in this, he plays Dan the Weatherman. He's in his own little isolated sort of research, meteorological site, while she's in, the lighthouse up there somewhere. And a fabulous KAB, top of the world. And that's got water in that, but this has got fire water in it. I think I'll stick with this for now. Cheers, y'all. And cheers, Chuck. Rest in peace, sir. And they're just voices. She's on the radio. He does a radio weather broadcast. But they haven't met each other. But he definitely has the hots for Adrienne Barbeau's character, Stevie Wayne. And they have lots of little bicker banter. And it's great. Of course, he will be slaughtered in that. You know, the ghosts of the old Elizabeth Dane, which was sunk with a fake fire on the beach, and Captain Blake and his leprous crew are down at the bottom of the sea, out by Spivey Point. But on Antonio Bay's centenary, they'll come back in the fog to wreak their revenge. And they get him, because it's not made massively clear in the movie, and I've said this a lot. I've done a commentary for The Fog, I've reviewed The Fog, I've talked about it many, many times. And they're meant to be, they're killing the descendants of the ones who killed them, who set them up and trapped them and let them die with a fake fire and all that. But they kill him, and with all their horrible, wicked weaponry, cutlasses, spikes, lots of hooked claws and things, like, it's just disgusting. But they boom, 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 bang on his door, and he's talking to Stevie Wayne at the time, and he's got, hang on a minute, sweetheart, someone's knocking at the door. And but Stevie Wayne's realised there's something in the fog. The seagrass has been took out recently as well, the night before, with horrible eye gougings and stuff like that. And so you're like, no, Dan, don't go to the door. Dan, don't open the door. No, don't worry, sweetheart. This is someone having a joke, someone playing a prank, but they're not going to be happy when they find me home. I always thought it was a bit of a strange. Just 1 second, folks. There's a knock at the door. Listen to the music. Isn't that weird? I'm talking about him getting a knock at the door. When we got a knock at the door, and there's a couple of things here. Very interesting. I'm sure I'll be opening those on video very soon. But not now, folks. We're too busy talking about Charles Cyphers. I always thought it was a strange line that, you know, it's someone having a prank. They're just messing about. They're not going to be happy they found me home. But if he didn't think he was there, what's he actually thinking to himself? And I'm not blaming Charles Cyphers for this because he's brilliant in the movie. But it's just like John Carpenter wrote this, and like, hang on a minute. Why would they be? They obviously, if it's someone playing a prank, then they're doing it because they think someone's in there. They're not going to be happy they found me home. And of course, he opens the door, and it's just the swirling mist, and then the school bell goes, and then he sort of walks out like that, and he's pushing the mist and fog away, and then suddenly all these knives go whoosh. Oh, you're like, oh, jeez, and he's like, oh. Oh, little scamps, little bullies. Little do they know. Oh dear. But like, he plays a character called Dan O'Bannon in that. See what I'm saying about the names that Carpenter uses? Dan O'Bannon, an actor, a producer, a screenwriter, a director, sadly now deceased. Complications of Crohn's disease, died very young as well, like I think about 65, something like that. But he was in Dark Star, directed by John Carpenter. John Carpenter's directorial debut, his student movie. Dan O'Bannon was in that as Lieutenant or Sergeant Pinback on the doomed Dark Star spacecraft. And he's brilliant as well. He had a hand in writing the original versions of Alien. He would also write Dead and Buried. He would also write Life Force and have a hand in the writing of Eternal Living Dead. So Dan O'Bannon was a great name. So he is Dan the Weatherman, but his real name is Dan O'Bannon. I just love this stuff. Like, now I said before about John Carpenter bringing various people back. John Strobel, who was in Escape from New York and The Fog, and I'm sure something else. And in Escape from New York, he plays a guy called Dr. Cronenberg, as in David Cronenberg. You have Frank Doubleday, he's one of the gang leaders in Assault on Precinct 13. He also plays Romero, as in George Romero, in Escape from New York. And of course, Charles Cyphers is in Escape from New York, and he plays the Secretary of State. And obviously, President Donald Pleasance has been kidnapped, and he's now in the cesspit, the volatile hellhole that is Manhattan, New York. Held hostage by the Duke of New York. Get his finger chopped off and delivered to Leigh Van Cleef by Romero, Frank Doubleday. But Charles Cyphers arrives there. Leigh Van Cleef as Police Commissioner Bob Houck, ex-Special Forces as well. Sends in Snake Plissken. Snake Plissken, where'd that name come from? John Carpenter went to high school with a guy who went under the name of Snake Plissken. And he was a big, popular fucking, possible bully as well, like, varsity jock. And but Snake Plissken was his name. So the name stuck. But Charles Cyphers plays. He comes in it on the periphery, and he does not like Bob Houck's idea of sending Snake in on a one-man lone wolf mission, lone snake mission to go and rescue the president. You've only got 22 hours, 57 minutes and 15 seconds, before Mr. President don't mean a whole lot, And, well, I've discussed this movie ad infinitum, of course. It's my favourite character, Snake Plissken. But he's great in it because he's the foil for Bob Houck. Bob Houck, once you've unleashed Snake into New York, Bob Houck just has a few radio transmissions, and then, they've got the tracer. But of course, he gets captured by the Duke, and he's injured, and you've got his I wish these guys would stop interrupting, you know. But sadly, the version of Halloween now, which I've got on CD, I've got it on vinyl, but I wasn't going to hawk all that out here. Has dialogue snippets, but the good thing about that is you're going to hear Charles Cyphers speak as well. So there's method to my madness here. But he's like, they've got his MVGs, his little night vision goggles, which you don't see him use, of course, like, but they get sent back because they're obviously in his pouches on Snake's belt. So much for your man, Hulk, says Charles Cyphers, looking at these things, like, and then later on, the tracer, gets pushed, the button, the red button, and all that. So right, they're about to send in the choppers under the Secretary of State's orders. Like that's it, your man's dead. We've got to warm up the choppers. We've got to go in there now on force and take the island. And but suddenly the tracer goes off, and Remy, played by Tom Atkins, another stalwart of John Carpenter movies. Tom Atkins from running. How, Pliskin's tracer. Right, get on the radio. Keep him down. Meaning the choppers, the attack choppers, going to go in with all the black-bellied United States police force, like an army. We're going to go in. And like, Charles Cyphers goes, anyone could have pushed that button. And he goes, only Pliskin knew there was a safety catch. I've got that tracer, and the safety catch is one of the most obvious things on it. Anyone would. Oh, what does this do? Oh, the police force eagle emblem pops up, and there's the red button. Do not press the red button. Red button, I must press it. But of course, it is Snake that does it. But so we give him a little more time just to make sure, says Leigh Van Cleef. So again, Charles Cyphers makes his mark in a great cult movie. What else would he be in? Oh, Death Wish 2 with Charles Bronson. A Force of One with Chuck Norris. Oh my God. He's in The Onion Field, another classic movie. He's in Coming Home, which is a very poignant, very harrowing, heartfelt anti-war movie by Hanoi Jane Fonda, of course, who knew John Voight, who's the star of it, and Bruce Dern very, very well. And Charles Cyphers only plays a very bit part in it. But again, it's one of those films that, you know, when you watch it, you go, oh, it's you nudge, you go, it's Sheriff Leigh Brackett. It's Charles Cyphers. He's great, isn't he? And they're going like, from Halloween? Oh no. Oh God. It's hard work sometimes. Cheers, y'all. I think you're going to hear him speak now. Well, very soon anyway. Sam Loomis and Leigh Brackett have gone to the old Myers house. They found a dead dog. He came home. And there's some great dialogue here. Of course, most of the great dialogue is Donald Pleasance's, but you've got to have someone to act opposite. And in Charles Cyphers, there's a great foil there. He's a wonderful, wonderful actor, and it is such a shame. He was in a stage production on Broadway, on and off Broadway, in fact, of 12 Angry Men, the classic 12 Angry Men. And he played like jury member number 3 or something like that. But he's in the great submarine drama with Charlton Heston, Grey Lady Down. And it's an all-star cast in that, but he's wonderful in it as well. I think he plays a sub-commander called Larson or something like that. What else is he in? Oh yeah, I didn't write anything else down, other than, sadly, way behind it, way below everything else, Halloween Kills. I'm disappointed in that. Again, it takes nothing away from Charles Cyphers himself, but he was shoehorned in there just to be legacy, and I hate that. Oh, I hate that. Other stars that John Carpenter used again and again and again. Peter Jason is in about 5, maybe 6 later John Carpenter movies. great shock moment now.
Seems to me you're just plain scared.
Yes. Cyphers.
Yeah, I am.
I am.
I met him 15 years ago. I was told there was nothing left. No reason, no conscience, no understanding, and even the most rudimentary sense of life or death, of good or evil, right or wrong. I met this 6-year-old child with this blank, pale, emotionless face and the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. I spent 8 years trying to reach him, and then another 7 trying to keep him locked up because I realized that what was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil.
What do we do?
He's been here once tonight. I think he'll come back. I'm gonna wait for him.
I still think I should notify the radio and television.
No. If you do that, they'll see him in every street corner. They'll look for him in every house. Just tell your men to keep their mouths shut and their eyes open.
I'll check back in an hour.
His character, there is dimensionality to him because he's got a daughter there. He almost catches him smoking pot in the car, and you know, it's my dad, and and of course there's the robbery from the thrift store, the novelty shop. Like Lauper's taken, you know, a mask and a couple of knives, and Charles Cyphers as Leigh Brackett. And you know, it's kids. It's Halloween. They'll do anything but Halloween, won't they? Oh, that's the other grave digger, you know. But he's believable. Small town sheriff. He's got like his deputies. Again, it's very similar to Jaws in some respects. You've got the beleaguered, you know, sheriff, police chief, same sort of thing. I can't. Is this happening in my town? No, this can't be. But then, as evidence piles up, oh, okay, yeah, there's something that's going on here. And of course, that little speech there, the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes, does of course recall Quint. You know, you know, think about a shark. It's got these black eyes, like a doll's eyes, and he comes at you. Doesn't seem to be living till he bites you. Those black eyes roll over white. It's a very similar sort of haunted house story, and but you need people. In the case of Robert Shaw in Jaws, it's his delivery of that, his second delivery, because the first one he was a rambling drunken mess. Oh, which reminds me, I should be assuming that role right now, a rambling drunken mess. Cheers, y'all.
Trick-or-treating,
Charles Cyphers.
Getting high. I have the feeling that you're way off on this.
You have the wrong feeling.
You're not doing very much to prove me wrong.
What more do you need?
Well, it's going to take more than fancy talk to keep me up all night crawling around these bushes.
I watched him for 15 years, sitting in a room, staring at a wall, not seeing the wall, looking past the wall.
So much great stuff, isn't there?
Inhumanly patient, waiting for some secret silent alarm to trigger him off. Death has come to your little town, Sheriff. You can either ignore it or you can help me to stop it.
More fancy talk. Doctor, you know what Haddonfield is? Families, children, all lined up in rows, up and down these streets. You're telling me they're lined up for a slaughterhouse?
They could be.
All right, I'll stay with you tonight. Just in the chance that you're right. And if you are right, damn you for letting him go.
In Halloween 2, he gets to recap on that because when he sees his daughter, you know, like I've got to go and tell my wife before somebody else does. Loomis is there as well. Like, I was like, damn you! What? You know, damn you! I didn't. And what you've done? I didn't do anything. You let him go. You let him free. You know, he's like, no, I didn't. I petitioned to get him restrained. You know, but you put yourself in Charles Cyphers' Leigh Brackett's shoes, and you're going to be, look, you were in charge, you didn't do enough. And it's tremendously good. And Charles Cyphers, again, I keep saying this, the crucial aspect and power of a supporting role is to be the character you're meant to be, obviously, and you've got to give your main characters someone to talk to bounce things around. You've got to perfect stinger, and they've got to, they can't be a wishy-washy sort of character. They've got to allow the main characters to do their thing, to propel the story. And when they do it right, you care about them and you remember them. And that's the exact thing that Charles Cyphers was able to do so brilliantly in so many movies. And it is sad. So 85 is not a bad age, you know. I've done a lot of obituaries and tributes to actors and celebrities who, in the recent sort of 12, maybe 18 months, who've all died in their sort of mid-70s, which in this day and age is nothing. That's cruelly young.
What's the matter? Can I get your ghost ball?
There's a lot of, I forget how much dialogue's actually on this particular release. And it is a bit of a pain sometimes. You just want the bloody music. But anyway, but yeah, a lot of people have died at this horribly young age. 85, okay. It's still pretty grim. A brief illness, they say. I don't know. You automatically assume cancer. You do. Everyone just assumes that. But I'd love to know that he was married and had kids, but I don't know. So if anyone has checked into this and gone a bit further than I did, please comment below and let me know if that's the case. I'd love to think there's a legacy there, and a family. So, but Charles Cyphers, a lot of people let me know yesterday morning when I woke up. There was a lot of messages on my phone. Charles Cyphers has died and all that, and I was like, oh my god. And it brought back all these movies and these great roles he's played. Again, supporting. He will be synonymous with Sheriff Leigh Brackett. He will be. But he had so many other great roles as well. And he did a lot of TV shows. I forgot to mention this. He's The Bionic Man. God, what else was it? No, $6 Man, Bionic Woman, Dukes of Hazzard. Loads of like the stalwart shows of the 70s and the 80s. He's in a lot of those. So a great jobbing actor, you know. And that's gotta keep the money coming in, haven't you? Says the guy who took redundancy payout, what, 14 months ago, 15 months ago, and hasn't done anything since. But hey ho, done this. So folks, just wanted to pay my respects and my tribute to Charles Cyphers. Without a doubt, a guy that made some seminal cult classic movies even better because he was in them and he did what he does best: support the main cast and deliver lines in the way it's required with his own unique way. There is another guy, I mentioned Frank Doubleday and John Strobel, Darwin Jostin, and of course David Keith, or was it Keith David? I always get the name mixed up, you know. Childs anyway is in They Live as well, as well as The Thing. And obviously the King Kurt, who would play Elvis another couple of times in a way. But you've got George Buck Flowers is in about 8, maybe 8. Did I write this down? No, I didn't. But he's in about maybe 6. I'll bring it down a little bit. John Carpenter movies, playing gruff down and outs, and you know, I'm the president. Sure, I'm the president. I knew when I got this thing, I'd be president. And Snake's like, oh, fucking hell, yeah, Jesus. I don't know what you guys are looking at, but I ain't the president. And he's in They Live as well. He's in many of John Carpenter's movies. Village of the Damned as well. Like, always plays a bum, a big hairy bum. He's got a really gruff sort of, deep southern accent. And George Buck Flowers, he has many variations on that name. He has a French variation on it as well. I think his name is actually George Albert Buck Flowers, something like that anyway. And he made about a decade of porn movies before John Carpenter spotted him. How did John Carpenter spot him? Hey, John? Before the video games came out, yeah. One hand was holding your ciggy, the other hand was holding someone else. But you were smoking from both ends, I'm sure, whilst watching George Buck Flowers in full action. But anyway, not to digress too far from the sad loss of Charles Cyphers, Chuck, as he was known. There was a great tweet, and I didn't write it down. I meant to write it down, and John Carpenter did say he was a wonderful person. I'm paraphrasing here. A wonderful person. He was a mainstay of my early movies. He was a great actor, hard worker, and I will miss him terribly. And, great. Good on you, John. He said something. A few other cast members he worked across with have come out and said stuff as well. So he'll be much missed. And it is an absolute shame. As I say, Sheriff, Will Teasel in First Blood, and Leigh Brackett. Leigh Brackett's the nicer, police face of authority in a small town. He's the more understandable one, the one you would go to. Will Teasel? No. Although having said that, both of them do not like outsiders, as in, well, Michael Myers is not an outsider, is he? He was fucking born there. Kilt-Man, get a grip, will you, man? He was there. Michael Myers is from Haddonfield, because it's the night he came home. John Rambo isn't from Hope, the town of Hope. And he does not get a warm welcome, does he? Although he does hot things up towards the end by blowing half the town up. But yeah. Folks, have been always shall be Kilt-Man, so please, in the meantime, and it's ever, doff your cap, raise a glass, and pay your respects to the great Charles Cyphers in between time. Please keep it Celtic, and I'm going to see you all when I open these. Just going to make sure that they actually are for me. They might not be. I know something was arriving today. All will be revealed. Yeah. Now, if I'm correct in my assumption, both of these are from our good friend from the Emerald Isle, Captain Ronnie. And he said that one would arrive today, one would arrive tomorrow. But it's Amazon, and Amazon lumped things together, and they both arrived today. And he said they're connected. I've forgotten half the clues now, to be honest, but I will work on these. I'm going to say right now. No, I'm not going to say. I'm not going to say. He said it's two separate characters who've been the same two movies together. I could be wrong about this. I'm trying to remember what the clues were, and he was deliberately very abstract as well, which you were, mate, you were, because I was flummoxed. And there's a word I don't use very often. Flummoxed. There is somebody is apparently in this box, and somebody else is apparently in this box. And they were in the film together, and then I think they were in two films together. But one is a screen legend, and the other one is, well, pretty much also the screen legend. But he wrote something weird. He said something like, which the one who's, yeah, he made many great films as well. One's a screen legend, one made many great films as well. And when you see it, you'll realise just how poignant his craft was. I have paraphrased that, but I've got the key words right there. So get your little brains working on that one. I may open these live later on, but I have a huge dog walk to do. Not my day to do the dog walking, but Mrs. Kilt-Man has found herself elsewhere Leaving me in the lurch again. So me and the Roxables, the husky called Roxy, me and her. I made a tongue twister out of something which was dead easy to say in the first place. We're going to go out on a big mission very shortly. I know, scintillating. So we're out on these. Captain Ronnie, cheers, my friend. Oh God! Should I do it? No, I'm not going to do it now. No, I'm not. No, their own separate video. Right, folks. Please be safe. Be happy, be healthy. Watch Charles Cyphers movies. Doesn't need that kind of reaction, I'm sure. Charles Cyphers also did a lot of conventions, did a lot of signings, so he liked the fan circuit as well, and apparently was a really personable, wonderful, warm character, you know, in real life as well. So it is a great shame. So rest in peace, Charles. You were wonderful in so many great movies. You will be sorely missed. Folks, I'm out of here. This is gone forever otherwise. So be happy, be yourselves, but don't be naughty. Come on now. You can misbehave in a good way by having fun, but don't hurt anybody else. No need, folks, no need. In the UK at the moment, tinderbox, it is combustible.